It's back. Wow. I am a menace to society. What was that? I'm here to serve popcorn to the leopards. Okay everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Clio. Today we're not filming with the Clio per se, we are going to be driving through this mountain pass, which we've done many of times, but we're going to be talking about a few things. And I thought that I would give my personal opinion on different types of cars that you can use on tracks and canyons. Now, I split it up into two segments. We have track cars and then canyon carvers. Now, for track cars, I've gone for a mixture of price, affordability, availability of parts as well. But mainly what I've done is I've gone ahead and chosen cars that are available, that are used, and that are available worldwide. It would be pointless me saying the Renault Clio RS, any form of that, or maybe the Megane RS when you can't get that in the States. It would be quite pointless. So I've chosen cars that are available everywhere, and again, this is just my personal opinion. It's my 2 cents on what might be a nice car to, use. So let's first of all start off with our track cars, but for that we're going to be hopping in the car, getting on the road, and we'll talk about that on the road. I'd like to start off by saying that I've split up the categories of track cars and canyon carvers into front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive cars. Because, in theory, you could go for any of them. I personally think front-wheel drive is great for beginners on track, but let's start off with our list. So for our track cars, I'm going to be starting off with a rear-wheel drive car, and that's going to be the BMW E36. Now, I don't care if you have an M3, if you have a 328, you have a 318, whatever. But I think that the E36 platform, as many of you will probably know, because it is a very popular choice as a track car, is extremely capable. There's a reason why a lot of people gut out the engine from an E46, being the S54, the same engine that's also in my Z4M, and throw it inside of an E36 and use that as their track car. I mean, it is a very capable platform, and with the car coming out in, I believe it was the early 1990s, there are no shortage of OEM and aftermarket parts. Maybe a little bit less OEM, but there's so many different aftermarket parts that you can get by perfectly fine with owning an E36 of any sort. So that's my first pick for a track car. It's also rear-wheel drive, so if you want to have a little bit of sideways fun, that car can do it. But now we're going to be hopping over to my next pick, and that is going to be for front-wheel drive. Now, I've chosen something that's a little bit... It's a very popular car. Would it be my pick? No. I'm a Megane RS fan through and through, especially the Megane 3. I would sell my soul for that car. I love my RB8, as I'm sure if you've watched my channel, you know I love my RB8. That car is everything to me. It's what started the channel. But it's not available in US markets, so it's pointless me recommending that car when someone in the US can't get that car. So what would I recommend? Well, at first I wanted to say the Hyundai i30N. That was my original choice, but then I realized that the folks over in the States didn't get the i30N. What they got was the Veloster N, and they're slightly different cars, and I can't recommend an i30N and they'd be like, oh yeah, but if you're in the States, go buy a Veloster. No, they're different cars. So what I ended up going with was the Golf GTI 7.5. Not the TCR, because unfortunately the States also did not get the TCR, but the 7.5 comes in at a reasonably priced value, and in the but in the used car market, you can get one cheaper than you can a Honda Civic Type R FL5. I'm not too sure about the FK8, I'll have to put that in. And around tracks you're running, probably about 2 to 4 seconds slower than an FL5. Now you take that time and you compare it to the price. You're getting more for your money with the GTI, and what you're doing is you can spend the money that you saved on the GTI that you'd rather use now to upgrade it. It will be a better and faster track car. So it's not going to take a lot to get your GTI 7.5 to be a really cool track car. And Golf's, the GTI in particular, is not known for its incredible handling, but it's a start. You're not looking for something to, be a literal race car. So that leads me on to my all-wheel drive pick. Now, this is arguably the most hardcore out of the cars that I've chosen here. even on the Canyon Carver list, I think this is the most hardcore. And a lot of people who have owned the car say that it's the most hardcore, and I personally would love to own one, but they are just a little bit out of that budget range. And that is the Ford Focus RS. This is in our all-wheel drive section, so just keep that in mind. So when you talk about the Focus RS, to me, I think about a blue Focus RS with black wheels. And I also think about the fact that that car can do anything. If you want your Focus RS to be your track car, which is what I've put it in for this segment, go ahead, get it. And then after that, if you decide, oh, you know what, I do want this to be my track car, but look, there's a rallycross event, so I'm going to enter into the rallycross. It can do that as well. Would it probably be expensive to replace body panels and stuff from any type of damage? Yes, it would be. But you know what? It's really up to you and what you choose to do. Wow, that car is smoking. That does not look good. Anyways, I digress. Now, those are my choices for track cars. Now, if I had to choose between all three of those cars, what would I choose? If I'm being very honest with you, I'd probably lean more towards choosing either the E36 or the Focus RS. Which one could I... Oh, yeah, I do think I'd lean more towards those two. However, which one do I see myself getting? Probably, funny enough, the Golf 7.5 and the TCR version. I think that's a really cool car, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when I own the cars that I do. I've got this Clio RS that we're in right now. I've got a Renault Megane RS, and both of those are front-wheel drive cars, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. E36, I wouldn't get. I own a Z4M and I own a BMW 135i. That doesn't make a lot of sense. However, I do not own an all-wheel drive car. So the Focus RS, I think, would edge out that win for me, and I think that would be the car that I would personally choose as a track car. Even though this little Clio is my track car, but again, not available everywhere. But yes, those are my three picks. Now again, these are my opinions. So if you would like to leave your opinion down in the comments, please go for it. I'd love to see what you guys would pick as your track cars. But that leads me into our next section, and that is going to be our Canyon Carvers. Cars that you're going to take to a road like this, and provided there's no cars in front of you like I have now, you're going to be ripping it through these corners like I've done many a times when I've been driving this road. Now, we're going to start in the same format with the rear-wheel drive car first. Again, I've gone according to price, availability of parts, and the fact that this car needs to be found worldwide. So up first for our rear-wheel drive section, I have gone for, this is a very controversial pick, but I wanted to do something that's out there, because if you think about rear-wheel drive and canyon carving, you think, certain types of cars, and if you go up to the upper echelon of prices, maybe you think about a BMW M2, or you think about a Porsche Cayman. That's what you think of, right? That's what I think of personally when I think about a canyon carver that is really good and does cost a little bit of money up front. But I've gone for a car that is a little bit, I would say, controversial in the fact that it does have some problems that can crop up when you own one, but provided you take care of the car, you won't have that. And that is going to be the Porsche Boxster 986, one of the first generations of the Boxster, and hear me out. I disliked this version of Boxster when it first came out. I remember sitting in the back of my dad's 330 Ci and seeing a Boxster and being like, oh, Dad, that's such a bad car, your car's faster. But as I've gotten older, my tastes have refined, and I see this 986 that's a little bit of an ugly duckling when it comes to the Porsche range, and I think, you know what? If you take that car, put some racing coilovers on, some different rims, so you can put on beefier tires for more grip, maybe some semi-slicks, or I don't know if you want to do that in the rain, and then also a different exhaust system, in that 986, you get a flat 6 in there. If you change that exhaust note any which way that is positive, it's going to start sounding like a 911. Maybe not exactly like one, but you're going to think, this sounds really good. And that in essence is what a canyon carver should be. It should sound cool while you're using it along these roads. And the 986 is also extremely cheap to get into. And if this is going to be your only car, and that's another thing that I looked out for when I was choosing these cars, was practicality. I understand that a lot of people don't have the capacity to have many cars, and they sometimes only have one car that they pour, their savings or they pour their income into to, be their enthusiast car. So the Porsche Boxster 986 is no slouch when it comes to storage. And when you think about it, it's a mid-engine car. You're getting into a mid-engine car for such a cheap price. And how many mid-engine cars are there? Maybe there's a Toyota MR2, but I mean, the Toyota MR2 is quite a rare car compared to the 986, at least where I'm from. But storage, you've got a boot in the back for the 986 and a boot in the front. You are not lacking on any storage. It is a really cool little car that I think a lot of people sleep on and see the potential issues that can arise with one that is not looked after and overlook that car. But yes, that is my choice for rear-wheel drive. Would a Mazda MX-5 also be a very good choice? Absolutely, but again, I wanted to do something controversial, something different, something fun. But that leads me on to my next segment, and that is for the front-wheel drive. And this one, it's a slightly newer car, but I personally really like this car, and it's a bit of a toss-up because it is a competitor to the Megane RS. But this car, it's available worldwide, so really, I don't think that you can say that, like, I want to market cars to you that are available worldwide, so I can't say to you, oh, but I would rather have the Megane RS, because if I'm taking what criteria I've put out for myself to select these cars, I can't say that, because the Megane RS is only available in places like Australia, South Africa, Europe, England as well. So I can't exactly say that, oh, you should have this car instead. I can't. But the car that I've chosen is the Honda Civic Type R FK8. Not the FL5, the FK8. The FK8's prices have dropped down quite nicely. They sit very similar to the Focus RS and also the Hyundai i30N. It's fairly affordable for a slightly newer car that has a lot of performance. The FK8 is also a previous front-wheel drive Nürburgring lap record holder. So it has racing history, it has pedigree. You can get this car in a manual. It is exactly what you want when you're going for canyon carver. And I know, I think a lot of people have, you know, adverse opinions on the look of the FK8. But personally, I love the FK8. I think that is such a pretty car. In grey, in blue, in red, I think those colors suit that car really well. Even white. I think that car looks fantastic. And would I own one if I got the opportunity? I would love to try one. Could I see myself keeping it compared to, you know, my Megane? No, I wouldn't keep it. That would probably end up being a car that I trade in or sell. But that doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good car. I think it's a fantastic car, but it is not my personal favorite. But when I give myself these categories, that is the car to choose, and I think that is a car that you can not go wrong with at all. Now that leads me on, after we're done with our front-wheel drive car, that leads me on to our all-wheel drive. But before we do that, I do just want to say that the FK8 is extremely practical with it being a 5-door car. It is a hot hatch, it is going to be practical. But that leads me to my next car. Now this is a slightly older car, and it's a car that when you see it, you instantly know what it is. And that's going to be the 2007 Subaru Impreza WRX STI. Now, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say, when you see that car, you know what you're looking at, and you know it looks cool. It is an awesome car to see driving on the roads, and an awesome car to even get behind the wheel of. This is our all-wheel drive segment, so let's say you want to go to canyons, and you want to carve out those canyons. But maybe, you know, the canyons are a little bit boring, so you take a dirt road to the side. Well, the Subaru Impreza WRX STI can do just that. Do I even need to tell you how many times it's won the WRC Championship? I don't, because that car is incredible with what it's accomplished. It is a successful, probably the most successful platform of all the cars I've listed here. It is extremely successful, and provided you maintain that car, it's not going to give you many problems, but that's the same as all of the cars on this list. And that leads me to my next point about the 6 cars that I've listed here in their respective categories. And that is, it simply does not matter what car you choose as your track car or your canyon car, because the correct car set up correctly will be absolutely awesome and so much fun. So my point still remains that you want to choose a car that, yes, has traits of the cars that I selected, but you can take a Suzuki Swift, gut out the inside, put on some good racing coilovers, some good tires on good rims, preferably light rims, that is. And again, you've gutted out the inside, so the car's light and it's got a little bit of power. That there will give you so much more fun than a modern day supercar. And when we look at it, most people can't afford modern day supercars. You know, none of my cars are classified as supercars, and I've got quite a few. I'm very fortunate that I do. But I have an absolutely ripping time in them, especially in this Clio. I mean, before I started filming, I was sending it halfway up the mountain, and it's a lot of fun, this little car. It's a little pocket rocket. I mean, what can you say? It's fun. But then, I also want to come to the point that it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. And it's more fun to use all of the power in a slow car trying to go fast than using an ounce, or I'm going to say an ounce, but using like 20, 30, 40% of the power in a supercar and not being able to do very much. You know, it's not as rewarding as taking a slow car like a Renault Twingo RS. I know that's not available everywhere, but this is just an example that's come to mind. And you take that car and you floor it through those gears and you keep it at the high RPMs. That is such a cool little thing to do. Take a Suzuki Swift, gut out the inside, put it on the track. That's an awesome car. Also the Chevy Cobalt SS. You don't even need to gut that out. That's a previous front-wheel drive lap record holder for the Nürburgring. So that's a good car as it is, but again, not available worldwide. But that there is a car that you can take and have an absolute blast in. You don't need a car that has lots of power. What you need is a platform that you can do things to, because some cars, they have their limitations in what you can do to them. And that is the unfortunate reality of different cars. And you might ask on this list, why did I choose such modern cars for the front-wheel drive segment? Front-wheel drive cars have advanced a lot recently. So much so that in some of them, you can direct the amount of power to the rear axle, I believe. I mean, that's incredible. That's very advanced for, front-wheel drive cars. They really have come a long way. And their handling overall is much better. Front-wheel drive cars have gotten so much faster in the recent years that it doesn't make sense to go for an older front-wheel drive car unless it's like a Honda Integra Type R. But the Integra Type R is not available worldwide. It's why I did not choose it, because that is cheaper than an FK8. It's also cheaper than a Golf 7.5, or a GTI 7.5, sorry. So when you take that into account, I couldn't put it on this list, unfortunately. And it's the same with the Clio. I couldn't put this on the list. I would really like to put the previous generation of Clio RS on this list, but I can't. It's not available in the US. So these are the best cars that I can recommend that are available in any market that you're in. Maybe there's some markets that I haven't looked at where these cars are not available, and I do apologize, but I've kind of looked at the big ones and also the ones that are applicable to me. But that's it as far as today's episode goes for this. I don't know what I'm going to call this episode. It is something new that I'm doing, and I'd really like to hear your guys' feedback and also what you think of the cars that I chose. What would you choose instead if you don't agree with the cars? Maybe instead of if you're living in the US and you don't want a Golf GTI as your track car, maybe you take an Integra Type R, or maybe you take a Veloster N or a Elantra N. I'd really like to hear your opinions on what you would choose in each of the segments. So just to remind you, the segments are front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and rear-wheel drive, as well as taking into account price, availability, and they need to be available worldwide. You don't have to abide by that, but I'd really like to hear what you think, and also what you thought about this episode, because this is slightly different than what I usually do. I usually send my cars through mountain passes and really focus on enjoying them, and I do occasionally review them as well. And I'm very fortunate to say that I've gotten behind the wheel of quite a few different cars. But I would love to do more cars, but for the time being, we're going to talk about cars. So that's kind of what this is. It's just me rambling on while doing a mountain pass at, honestly, not very fast speeds. I'm taking it very easy here while I literally waffle on. But I do hope you guys have enjoyed this. And I come back once again. I'd really like to know what you thought about what I've said, and what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and what you would take instead. But now that we're done with that portion of the video, I do want to give a quick little garage update. The RB8 has gone in for the problem that I was experiencing in the previous video, and that was basically when I would give 100% throttle, the car would almost choke itself, and it would not accelerate. Now, we've identified that as a fuel pump problem. Whether that's the filter being clogged or the actual pump being faulty, we don't know, but the car is being worked on as we speak. So in the next day or so, I'll know exactly what it's dealing with. But we've already got the replacement parts, but before I get the car back, the car is going to be going in to get, one, its airbag replaced so it can get roadworthy, and then two, it's also going to have its wiring checked and the aircon sorted, because it is hot now. This time of the year where I stay is very hot, and being inside a performance car that has no aircon is like being in a sauna, and I'm pretty sure that every time I drive that car, I'm losing about 2 kilograms per drive. But regardless, I digress. That is the garage update. Oh, wait, before I conclude that, I have forgotten one very special car, and that's my Z4M. that is quite a... I wouldn't say that's coming back anytime soon. That's still a while away. But it's getting worked on. There is progress with that car. But more so the RB8 is the car that we're focusing on now. And I do think I want to get behind the wheel of that Z4 that I reviewed a while ago. So I think we should look out for that. But as I wrap up today's video, I want to know, are there any other cars that you would like to see on this channel? Are there also any other segments of like a video like this where today I've compared track cars and canyon cars? Are there other segments you'd like to see, like maybe, you know, GT cars or sportback cars? You know, something that's unique, different. And I'll list out the ones that I could find that are available worldwide and are available for a decent price. But yes, I do hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed today's video. I know it's a little bit different, probably a little bit short, but I wanted to do something fun. I'm now going to turn the car into sports mode, over into full RS mode, everything off. And before I say goodbye, we're going to do this loop and put our foot flat, and then we'll say goodbye. And hard onto the brakes. This little Clio is a lot of fun, and it's a pity that I couldn't recommend it as a car for, you know, people in the US, because it is a lot of fun, and if you're fortunate enough to be able to get behind the wheel of one, you discover exactly why a car like this is a lot of fun. But anyways, I'm not going to bore you with more canyon driving, as I've already done this road in this exact car. What I will do is send you guys off. I do hope you thoroughly enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers!